Bonsoir. Alors aujourd'hui, pour français 3, nous allons continuer avec les pronoms, d'accord? Et ça, c'est une leçon très importante. Alors, il y a 5 choses qu'il faut savoir de notre leçon aujourd'hui. D'abord, on va très vite réviser les pronoms me, te, nous, vous. Après, nous allons discuter les pronoms objets directs, le, la, les. Nous allons discuter la possession de ces pronoms. Après, nous allons distinguer la différence entre le, la, les et en. Et finalement, on va discuter l'accord dans le passé composé avec les objets directs. D'accord? Donc ça, c'est important. Et alors, j'espère aussi que vous avez votre livre avec vous, le livre. Il y a une petite explication à la page 162, mais voilà, je crois que ce n'est pas très bien expliqué ici parce que c'était mieux expliqué dans votre livre de français 2. Ok, mais quand même à la page 162, ça aide. Ok, alors la première chose, me, tu, nous, vous. Okay, so now we're going to start reviewing some of the personal pronouns. The last set of pronouns we've been doing, e and all, and the indefinite pronouns were not personal. They were adverbial. They referred to places or things. Now we're going to talk about personal pronouns. So the first set we get to are me, te, nous, and vous. And these are what we call object pronouns. And let's just compare what they mean in English, just to be really sure we know what we're talking about. So me in English, and I don't have a lot of room here, so I'm going to write it right here. Me means me. Okay? So I wouldn't say I or you see I would say you see me. So we're using an object pronoun. Te refers to you. Nous can mean we, but it also means us. It is also, besides being a subject pronoun, it's also an object pronoun. And then finally, vous can mean you as a subject and you as an object. Okay, so that's the vocabulary. Me, te, nous, vous as object pronouns. And the most frequent way we're going to use this is in a dialogue or in a conversation. So if somebody were to say something like, oh, it's Valentine's Day coming up, right? Tu m'aimes? Tu m'aimes? Do you like me? Do you love me? And you say, oh, mais oui, chérie. Je t'aime. Je t'aime. Right? Tu me? Do you like me? Yes, I like you. Je t'aime. Okay, un autre exemple. Il nous écoute. Il nous écoute. Question, is he listening to us? Oui, bien sûr, il vous écoute. Yes, he is listening to you. Okay, so they're usually used in a question-answer format, and you go back and forth with the pronoun. Okay, me becomes te, nous becomes vous, etc. Now, one important thing that you might want to star or highlight or make a note in your notes is that notice nous and the end of the verb here. What would a French 1 student think it should be? A French 1 student will think, oh, that should be an ONS because you've got nous. But it's not an ONS, and pourquoi pas? Because nous is not the subject. The subject is il. Nous is an object. And verbs don't match objects, they match subjects. So you want to be really careful and notice that when the subject, or excuse me, when the verb does not match the vous, then you know that vous is not acting as a subject, it's acting as an object. Okay, so be careful with that. Watch out for the endings, that they don't match the object. Bon. Okay, so that's quickly with me, te, nous, vous. Okay, so me, te, nous, vous. Bon. All right, now let's talk about les objets directs. Les objets directs. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my chart that I just had, and I'm going to create it again. So we have me, te, nous, vous. Me, you, and then what about him and her? So we're going to have le, la, so this is going to be him and her, nous, vous, and les, and that means them. Okay, so these are all object pronouns, but now we're going to start concentrating on le, la, and les. Now, because all nouns are either masculine or feminine, this word le can mean him or it can mean it. La can mean her or it, and les can mean them or them, because we use the word them for people, we use the word them for things. Okay, so first you just have to know the vocabulary with the pronouns. Okay, voilà, let's take a couple look at some sentences. So if I were to say, je vois Pierre, I see Pierre, I could change Pierre to a pronoun, and that would be similar to him. So if I look back in my chart that I just wrote down, le. And where does the pronoun go? Always, it goes avant le verbe, before the verb. So je le vois. I see him. Okay? Je vais acheter cette voiture. I'm going to buy this car. Now, cette voiture is the noun, so I'm going to replace cette voiture with my new pronouns, and I have le, la, and les. Cette voiture is feminine, so I'm going to use la. Now, where does it go? We have vais and acheter. We have an infinitive, so remember it goes before the infinitive. So I'm going to put la right up here, and because I have a vowel here, I'll change it to l'apostrophe. Je vais l'acheter. Now, don't forget to cross this out. A lot of students replace the noun with a pronoun, but then they forget to take the noun out, and then they have something like, I'm going to buy it the car. So be sure you get rid of the pronoun when you replace, or get rid of the noun when you're replacing with a pronoun. D'accord? Okay, so that's the concept of le, la, les, all right? And then position. We know this, right? There are 4 types of sentences. So the first type of sentence is a regular sentence. Je le vois. I see him. The second kind of sentence is passé composé. Je l'ai vu. And where does the pronoun go? Before the helping verb. The third kind of sentence is with a pronoun, with an infinitive. Je vais le voir. See my infinitive right there? Okay? It goes before the infinitive. I am going to see him. And my fourth type of sentence is the command. And I have an affirmative command and I have a negative command. Now I'm going to have to change the verb because it doesn't really make sense to say see him. So how about if I were to say call him? Appelle le, there's my command, and my negative command, ne l'appelle pas. Okay, so that's the position. All right, before we go on to the next part, which is the contrasting le, la, les with all, let's just take a look at these sentences and see if you could replace the direct object with the right pronoun. Again, you have a pause button, so I encourage you just to pause this, take a minute to copy these down, and write the sentences as you think they should be. Okay, here we go. So, tu écoutes ce reportage. There's my direct object. Replace it with le. Now you have to start, if you don't know genders of words by now, you really need to start knowing them, okay? But oftentimes there are clues and cues in the sentence. And here is one. This word ce lets you know the gender of this word. And you know that ce is a masculine form, cette is the feminine form of the word this. So I absolutely know that reportage is masculine. I don't have to guess. But if I didn't know, I would have to look it up in the book. You have to look things up, okay? Tu écoutes ce reportage. So we change it to le, and then where does it go? Right here. Tu l'écoutes. Okay, so that's a new sentence. Tu l'écoutes. Nous allons acheter ces timbres. So ces timbres replaced with les. Here's an infinitive, so it goes before the infinitive. Nous allons les acheter. Nous allons les acheter. And I want to be sure to get rid of the direct object. L'astronaute a perdu son appareil photo. Dommage. So son appareil photo is le, and I put it before the helping verb. Voilà. L'astronaute l'a perdu. Et finalement, j'invite ma cousine au concert. This is la, goes before the verb. Je l'invite. Notice it becomes an L apostrophe. Au concert. Okay, just some basic direct object pronouns. All right, now let's go to our list. So we can use me, nous, vous, le, la, les. We know where they go. All right, now when are we going to use en and when are we going to use le, la, les? You already know the answer to this, but I just want to be sure that you could notice it in a sentence. You remember that en is used to replace any noun beginning with the form of de, right? Or a number or a quantity. So let's suppose I have the expression tu achètes les timbres and tu achètes des timbres. These look awfully similar, don't they? The difference is this has des in front of it. And when I have a form of de, I have to replace it with en. When I don't have a form of de or number or quantity, I don't use en. So this will be tu les achètes, and that will be tu en achètes. Okay, so both en and or both des timbres and les timbres, they're both direct objects, but one of them uses a direct object pronoun and one of them doesn't use a direct object pronoun because of the word des, or a number or expression of quantity. D'accord? Okay, alors, let's look at a number. J'apporte un journal. J'apporte ce journal. You recognize that that's a number, so use en. That's not a number, so use le. And then, of course, it goes before the verb, and the en would stay in the sentence. Okay. All right, numéro 5. The last thing, and this is a big thing, is l'accord. Remember this from French 1? L'accord, we know that means agreement. And this applies to passé composé. So you definitely need to make a spot in your notes for this. Passé composé avec avec les pronoms objet direct. Okay, so what happens with passé composé with direct object pronouns? So let's again review what are our direct object pronouns. That would be me, te, le, la, nous, vous, les. So what we're about to say applies to all of these pronouns. Okay, and what is it that we're about to say? Well, take a look at this. J'ai acheté la voiture. I bought the car. Okay? Now I want to say that same sentence, but I want to change la voiture into a pronoun. So I'm going to use la, and it goes before the helping verb. Je l'ai acheter. But I'm not done. I'm going to have an E there. Pourquoi? There's no extra E here, but there is here. Pourquoi? Well, what's the difference between this sentence and that sentence? The difference is that I have a pronoun that's now, or I should say a pronoun that's now in front of the verb, or a direct object in front of the verb, instead of after. So this E right here is not agreeing with je, it's matching this. I bought it. What did I buy? The car. The car is feminine, and it comes before the pronoun. So before the helping verb. So the rule is, and this is what you want to write in your notes, the past participle must agree with a preceding direct object. Okay, and what does the word preceding mean? Preceding means comes before. And where do direct object pronouns go? Before. So when the direct object is in the form of a pronoun, it's going to be preceding the verb. Okay, so preceding the verb. All right, so let's take, or preceding the past participle. So let's take a look at that again. So, j'ai écouté la radio. Okay, so if I were to take this out, la radio becomes la, goes in front. Je l'ai écouté with an E, and it agrees with that. All right. How about if I were to say, if I'm asking you, did you hear me? Tu m'as entendu? Did you hear me? Now, me is referring to me, because I'm asking you if you heard me, and I'm a girl, so I have to add an E to this pronoun, or this past participle, because me is referring to a girl. Tu m'as entendu? Il nous a vus. He saw us. Okay, so us is a pronoun and it precedes the verb, so I have to add an S, and it agrees with that. Okay, it's really important that you understand that this agreement here is not going with the subject, it's going with the preceding direct object. Okay, so c'est très très important. Okay, bon, so I have a little jingle to help us remember this. We may have had this before. I can't remember if we've done this in French 3 or not. And our little jingle is pay, pay. Remember what pay, pay is? Past participle. Pay, pay. You're a pain in the neck. You must agree, or you always agree. I change it up sometimes. You must agree with the preceding direct, meaning direct object. Okay, and if you remember this little jingle, this will be very helpful. Okay, pay, pay, you're a pain in the neck, you must agree with the preceding direct. Okay, now, a couple of things to note here. We're talking about passé composé with avoir. We're not talking about passé composé with être. Let's go back to the beginning of the year when we were doing passé composé with être. Just a little side note here. When we had passé composé with être, nous sommes allés, for example, we had agreement, and what did that S agree with? The subject. So when être is the helping verb, agreement is with the subject. Okay? And there's always agreement. Okay? If you have an être verb there, always agreement. If you have avoir as the helping verb, nous avons acheté les journaux. We bought the newspapers. I can't fit it in there. No agreement. Okay, there's no agreement there. But if so always agreement with être, no agreement with avoir. But if I were to take out les journaux and change it to a direct object and say we bought them and put that right here, now I have an agreement and I have an S. But does that S match the nous? No. This S matches les. Okay? So pay, right here, pay, you're a pain in the neck, you must agree with the preceding direct. That refers to avoir verbs, not to être verbs. Okay? But when we're using direct objects in this chapter, the verbs are always going to be avoir because you can't have a direct object with an être verb. Okay, so if you are on page 163 in your book, there are some practices. Exercise 3 on page 163 has some examples. So if I were to look at number 2, it says laver ta voiture. So I could ask the question, tu as lavé ta voiture? Did you wash the car? And I can answer it with yes. Oui, je, comes out, l'ai, lavé, because it's feminine, I'll have an e. I washed it. I want to make it negative. Non, je ne l'ai pas lavé. I didn't wash it. Okay, so notice that. Let me do one more, and this will be the last one. How about number 3? That's a tricky one. Tu as acheté de la limonade? And I'm going to say oui. Now, de la limonade. What pronoun do I use with that? I use en, right? So oui, j'en ai acheté. It's feminine, so am I going to have an E here? No. Why? Pay, you're a pain in the neck, you must agree with the preceding direct. Well, that's not a direct object. We said that the direct objects are me, te, le, la, nous, vous, and les, not all. So there's no agreement. Okay? So study your notes again. Study this very well because this is a little bit tricky, and we'll practice this in class on the next time I see you. Alors, au revoir.